internet, bricks on the screen, healthcare in between, physics, art, math, guide us down this path. Historical tales come alive, where science and stories dive, blended facts with heart, knowledge from the start. Need bridge blues we sing to the future memory. Health and science in the mix, Need bridge got the fix. Complex subjects made clear, every episode cheer. Ramana leads the way, explaining day by day. In the world of digital streams, turning knowledge into dreams. Through the tales of old, new stories unfold.
MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming.
Hello, this is Ramana Annamaraju. Welcome to the MedBix Webcast. This is Ramana Annamaraju. I'm the host. Okay, we have a new intro session. You have seen it. It's a New Orleans jazz kind of a mix it together. It tunes with our guest coming up. I love blues. That's always I love blues. So I used to visit a lot of cardiology meetings here still being held in New Orleans. So we used to go American College of Cardiology, American Auto Station meetings. They're all being done in New Orleans, and I used to go frequently visit New Orleans for those conferences. Though I'm not a doctor, I used to go there and meet a lot of doctors there for my business. But anyway, welcome to the MedBix Webcast. It is a really pleasure. I'm going to introduce a good friend and Dr. Jaligam. He's from Andhra Pradesh, where I'm a neck of my woods. He is a cardiologist, presently in suburb of Washington D.C. Virginia is a suburb of Washington D.C. People don't know, even though state is different. Vienna, Virginia is like a suburb of Washington D.C. basically. So something that things are, I hope we connected together. There was a lost connection, something happened, but sorry about that. But anyway, I'm going to bring him on the table, on the stage. Let me so there's a cardiovascular risk. I was talking about it. India is a staggering problem about the cardiovascular risk. We need more cardiologists than any time. We need to prevent the cardiac diseases. And our guest has a very good ideas about how to prevent it. He is both in academics and both in private practice now. And he went through a different kind of private settings. So let us bring him. Let me bring Dr. Jaligam, Vijay Jaligam, his name. Let me bring him to the stage. Just a minute. Dr. Jaligam, welcome to the MedBix Webcast, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Ramana.
Thank you for joining with us. So tell us, you came from my home state of Andhra Pradesh. You're also from same state. Tell us where you from? Are you division of Rayalaseema, Telangana, Andhra? We have 3 regions of Andhra, which is divided into a lot of local politics there. So tell us what part of you're from.
It's a great honor and opportunity and a pleasure to be on this podcast, Ramana. And my journey started humble beginnings of my beautiful parents. And my dad hails from Rayalaseema, and my mom hails from Andhra. So I'm a mix of everything, and I grew up in Hyderabad, which is the most cosmopolitan, once upon a time, a Silicon Valley of India. So beautiful upbringing, very troublesome childhood in terms of games and naughtiness. Curiosity was my drive, and it was nurtured with my parents in terms of whatever I wanted to do. I used to get encouragement. So I originally wanted to be a pilot, and an incident changed my thought process. And during that process, I used to have a lot of childhood friends. We used to hang around, do all the child naughty stuff. One of my friend developed rabies, and back then as a kid, I was so scared that we're going to lose our friend. He had a classic, typical symptoms of frothing around the mouth, and he was in the hospital. We sneaked into the hospital, looked at him, and that's what caught my attention. Like, I felt that innate need, like I love science. I'm curious about a lot of things, and why does this happen this way? The why probably was nurtured well by my parents, and they pushed me in the right direction. And I ended up choosing the field of medicine, and I had the fantastic ride.
So then after that you studied, your friend inspired your, his medical recovery inspired you, and you joined, you finished your medical school there, and then you started practicing in Hyderabad area. Tell us a little bit about your experience, a practice experience in seeing patients. Indian pathologists are wide. They say if you want to experience, really see real patients, the wide spectrum, India is the best place. Tell us a little bit about your journey into the private practice in Hyderabad, India.
Thank you for that question, and thank you for taking me down my memory lane. So, I did my medical school in one of the famous medical colleges, Osmania Medical College, and a lot of discoveries happened over there in terms of medical therapies. I take pride in it, coming from that Osmania, and the tropical. Hyderabad has a tropical country. You see a lot of tropical diseases. Back then, during my training, I saw more of rheumatic heart disease, where young kids used to have sore throat, develop valvular complications. I kind of saw most of that. I saw very few heart attacks, but now getting trained in most prestigious institution gave me a solid background. So I started my private practice right away, just to test my mettle, to see where I stand, how my clinical application is. And I had a fantastic experience with my parents' encouragement. I used to do a free clinic. So that's when I started to serve the underserved population, and also gave me the opportunity for me to be humble, to be a lifelong student, and also learn a lot from the patient, because patient is the best storyteller. If you listen, if doctors listen, the diagnosis part is easy. Then the patients have to listen. So for me, whenever I educated the patient, they used to listen, because most of the time patients don't get the opportunity of somebody explaining them the why, rather than here is the pill, go take the pill, here is the procedure, go do the procedure. If you empathize with them, make them understand what they're going through, I think they will follow you. And in terms of their improvement of the health, so that little bit of private practice opened my mental journey in terms of how to communicate well to the patients, because I think that's the biggest missing link in terms of doctors communicating to the patient of their issue, and also reassuring them, saying that, hey, you can get better, but this is what you got to do. So educating the rural class, underprivileged, gave me a great opportunity, and from there my journey started overseas.
One of the famous person said that recently, that the best trait you can give it to his children is a storytelling. as you really made a big point there. I love that point. Is that listen to the stories of the patients? That is really that is where the teacher and the listening. I used to tell my son also. If you listen to lectures, actually, you don't have to study that hard. That was a mantra. The same thing applies to even the doctors. And if they listen to the patient, they're all one of the probably Western medicine a little bit went too far in that direction. I wanted to ask you about that. Is that only we take the physical diagnosis, and then whatever the patient says is all hysteria and dismiss it. I think that is changing recently. So tell us a little bit of that journey into, now you are from India, you moved from India to jump into academics to United States. Who inspired you, and how did you get into the United States, and what do you want to do here?
Great question, Ramana. So my journey from Pearl City, Hyderabad is called the Pearl City, to Crescent City, which is New Orleans, was unique and intriguing, and a great opportunity for me. Louisiana, New Orleans has its own charm. It has its own battles and privileges. So I started there doing research, basic research, and that gave me a different perspective. I was trying to do lung transplants and study metastasis and in the pulmonary critical care department. And during that tenure, during my residency, Dr. Raja Durandar was my prime mentor, who convinced me to go into cardiology. I was initially hesitant to be a cardiologist. And he showed me the beauty, the bedside of cardiology. You don't need instruments, you don't need testing to really diagnose a disease, which I learned from some of the great teachers in Osmania and Hyderabad. I think Dr. Durandar instilled that ground for me to be even keeled on that. And from there, I had a few more mentors, like Dr. Frank Smart was also a key, because I was trained in heart failure and transplant as well, along with cardiology. And he's my friend, my mentor. And Dr. Steve Cantor was another one who gave me great opportunity in research. So I was very active in being an academics, Ramana. I was able to participate in a lot of big landmark trials in the field of cardiology. It opened at one point of time, I was probably in 13 to 16 trials. And
that's a lot of trials.
yeah, and New Orleans being a typical a gumbo pot, I call it as.
Yeah, it's truly gumbo pot.
And the most what should I say, very important thing which really struck me was during the hurricanes. There was one particular zip code where lifespan is 55 years old, and if you go 5 miles down, the lifespan is 80 plus years old. And that connected with me with the lifespan in India. In India, it used to be less than 60 years. Now it probably is about 64 years, which is still young compared to the world standards. So it gave me a greatest opportunity during the research time, like, hey, this is a ground where if you impact cardiovascular disease, you can improve a lot of lives. So as you know, the Framingham Heart Study in North is most quoted. Similarly, we had something called Bogalusa Heart Study in the South. So they looked at the aortas of young kids who died in an accident at the age of 11, 12, and atherosclerosis starts at that time.
Oh,
and as you know, inflammation is mother of all diseases, and atherosclerosis starts at that young age. And everything boils down to food, the type of food you eat,
yes.
and a lot of other things which we'll talk later. So it gave me a fantastic platform in New Orleans during my research days, my residency, my cardiology fellowship, my heart failure and transplant fellowship. And then comes the most devastating Hurricane Katrina in 2005. So,
by the way, just I wanted to mention this one, Raja Durandar. I met him a few times actually. He passed away, right? He's one of your mentors. He passed away. I met him. He's one of the finest gentlemen and a cardiologist. You sure? After that, Now go ahead, please. I don't want to stop by, but he's a great one of the two gentlemen passed away. That's I want to mention that Raja Durandar. Yeah.
Yeah, I had great teachers, even Dr. Charles Sanders, the
Yeah.
well-known infectious disease person in the country who retired. So during Hurricane Katrina, Raman, I saw that probably the entire world saw the unmasking of the hidden burden of the society in terms of cardiovascular disease, in terms of other diseases, access to care, and also understanding like, hey, if you're 20, 25-year old having heart failure or heart disease, what is my life expectancy? What are the things I need to do to get better? So it really opened my eyes. I didn't leave this city. We stayed back and tried to help the people. And during rehabilitation of the entire New Orleans city, we did a lot of camps. I used to go do my voluntary talks in churches and other places about uh, the stress, the poverty, the access to care, access to medications, transportation to to these places for them to get care. A lot of people had poor outcomes because of ignorance or lack of services, and that kind of solidified my journey, Rama, in terms of, yes, this is where my heart and soul is in terms of cardiovascular disease. What can I do to impact the society? It is not just about one patient, it's about the community, the society, the country, and the world.
You said the zip code decides how long you live. That is actually exposed. And during the Katrina, we all come to know during Katrina the disparities of health. Actually, first time before even a pandemic, the first exposure to the disparities is Katrina. New Orleans always epicenter of studies. This kind of a disparities, that is the epicenter in my view. You're in the right place for the study the disparities. In fact, it's absolutely true. And tell us what kind of research you have done. This not only understanding the on the disparities. So what kind of research that you were doing during those days, academic side of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you see, the number one leading cause of death in this country is cardiovascular disease. The number one leading cause of death in India is cardiovascular disease. The number one leading cause of death in the world is cardiovascular disease. So there's a common thread, common factor. In New Orleans, if you see, based on the geography of this country, the coronary artery disease, which is the blockages in the coronaries, is not the leading cause. Hypertension was the leading cause causing heart failure. So we were part of trials in terms of how can we detect early, how can we prevent uh, by devices. So we were a part of some trials where we used to place devices, and the patient used to have a device, and it used to show like, hey, your blood pressure is high, hey, your fluid in your lungs is high, hey, your medications need to be tailored. So we used to do that and help the patient outcomes. So a lot of devices in heart failure, and pulmonary hypertension was the other area. A lot of people uh, who develop pulmonary hypertension, it's a very lethal course for them unless it depends the five types of pulmonary hypertension. So I had a fantastic training in Oxnard when it comes to that. Few doctors from there who really guided me well. So we were part of the only accredited program in the South. So we used to run pulmonary hypertension clinic. People used to come from far and wide to get treated. So we were a part of that, and we were part of heart failure trials, and we were part of STEMI, like in terms of heart disease. Anybody's having a heart attack, from the time they have the heart attack to the time they're coming into the ER and getting the needle stuck and opening the blocked vessel, and few more other trials. So there was so much, and also LSU is a very academic, robust university. So the pharmacology department, Dr. Dan Kapusta, was very instrumental in terms of trying to do basic research in terms of heart. How can we go after that hypertension? Because hypertension was the leading cause of heart failure in New Orleans, unlike rest of the country where blockages is the most.
I'm involved with actually Association of Black Cardiologists and Association of Indian Cardiologists. Both of them actually I brought them together. In fact, we had a conference together of the cardiologist. Probably you were not here at the time, but that was, one of the things, Jackson study, Dr. Herman Taylor was doing the Jackson study, Birmingham study that you're saying, another one. So these studies actually helped us so much in cardiology. We don't have that kind of a large amount of big study in India, I think, but these studies in the United States really helped all over the world. Probably is two big studies. So, and then your experience, understanding these things is expanded your horizon in the cardiovascular disease area. You mentioned about the couple of things. One is how much is, for example, I used to go with the Jeff Weisman, is a nuclear cardiologist. We did a nuclear thallium testing mobile in Alabama, Selma, Alabama. Then when I was going there, and then one thing we noticed is that everybody was big. There is a 400 pounds, 300 pounds, just striking for us. And I asked a hospital doctor, cardiologist there, what is everybody is big here? What is that? They said we don't have even a nutritionist in the hospital for 10 years. So how much is the lifestyle? How much is the genetic factors? Can you explain a little bit about that part, that Jaligam?
Wow, you pretty much asked a very fantastic question. It is both a problem and also a solution. So if you see, obesity is one of the leading cause for inactivity, and it causes metabolic syndrome, it causes diabetes, it causes hypertension, it also causes heart failure. So not eating the right food or having access to the right food, right? If you have fast foods at every corner and it's easy to go get food and eat it, you'll eat it. I mean, the awareness of saying that, okay, if I eat this, my chance of lifespan is going to go down, I'm going to develop cardiovascular disease or diabetes, is poor, especially in immigrant population and in Black population. Awareness is there and not there. So there are some efforts going on. So if you look at the diet, right, there are so many things out there on YouTube, on Google, and there are how many Google doctors. Understanding it, there's no silver bullet for everything. So understanding, like, okay, the calorie intake and the calorie expenditure has to match out, right? If you have excess calorie intake and inactivity, then you're going to lead to obesity, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular disease. So that's a common pattern you see. And other thing I want to say here is a lot of Asian Indians who come from a tropical climate to this climate suddenly have a change in their metabolic rate in terms of less activity, go around in car, no exercise, more calories, nutrient-rich food. So all those things put the Asian Indians into a very high-risk category of cardiovascular disease and early death. So, as you said, food is the key. If I had to summarize in one word, food should be medicine. Food should not cause diseases. So the processed food are the ultimate culprits here. When you eat real food, like blue zones eat real food. There is no processed food. Those people live till 100. They don't have much chronic arthritis. They don't have much cardiovascular disease. They don't have much diabetes. And they are very active. So we have some sets of populations who are very active, but we also need to look at the risk factors. Okay, if I am predisposed to diabetes, me eating high glycemic index food like carbohydrates, donuts, or rice, white rice, or stuff like that is going to put you in a high risk category. Yeah. The one thing what I emphasize in my practice, Ramana, is prevention is better than cure. When it comes to cure, most of the cardiovascular diseases are reversible. In general, most of the chronic diseases are reversible. If that can be ingrained in a patient saying that, hey, yes, I have arthritis. Yes, I have heart disease. Yes, I have blood pressure. You can reverse it. I'll give you just a simple example. I had a patient, young fellow, 30-ish, came in with high blood pressure. All I did was, you followed these guidelines. In 2 to 3 months, you will be off of medications. That guy followed to the T. Now, after 3 months, he's not on any blood pressure medications, no diabetes medications. He lost all the weight and he's excited. I didn't do any magic. I just said, you can reverse the disease just through the food and activity. Of course, you have to exercise. Inactivity is one of the top 3 criteria for worsening cardiovascular disease, right? Tobacco, inactivity, and your diet.
How much inspired by Ayurveda in India? Ayurveda says food as a medicine. What you're saying is that you must have some background in that area, that understanding coming from that India, that Ayurveda played a role with you. That is food as a medicine as their central theme of the Ayurveda. I don't know much about Ayurveda, but my father used to practice. Go ahead, please explain to us a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Beautiful question, Ramana. So me having the privilege of coming from Eastern to Western world with my rich background, my mom used to cook great, my aunts used to cook great, but my dad said always one thing: you have to keep your stomach half empty. I never understood why he was saying this. To this day, he's lean and he's more active than I am. So I started to dwell deep into that, why he was saying, and what time of the day you eat, and do you need to eat, do you need to snack all day, do you need 4 meals? So I was able to connect the dots between Eastern and Western medicine and philosophy. So I'm more of, there's something called circadian rhythm in your body. It starts with the sunrise and sunset. So you need to eat while the sun is rising, peak at the lunchtime, and when sunset, you got to keep your stomach half empty. The more empty the stomach is during sleep, you wake up fresh and you automatically reset your insulin. Insulin is also a mother of all diseases, right? Like anytime you put sugar in your mouth, insulin kicks in. And insulin, a lot of Indians have insulin resistant. A lot of people around the world have metabolic syndrome. Even Spanish people, South Americans have that. I've seen some in Caucasians and African Americans too, based on the body size. So I used to always tell them, highly processed food like cereals is detrimental for you. A lot of young kids in every generation, in every ethnicity, I've seen it. Easy, go to the cereal, Cheerios or cornflakes, and your sugar shoots up, right? As you age, you got to eat wholesome food. And the type of food, what we used to eat when I was growing as a kid, and the activity level, what we had, was balancing out. I was very lean back home. Pretty much every Indian who comes from there is very lean. And there's also fasting every 14th, 11th to 14th day based on the lunar cycles. So there are 2 fasting days which come in Ayurveda on a monthly basis. And if you see the gentleman who got the Nobel Prize for autophagy, the Japanese gentleman, it is kind of an ancient, old, known fact, but lost in translation, that if you do fasting, again, only certain people, not everyone, you have to talk to your doctor if you have diabetes, and don't just stop everything, take my word. But fasting in general, again, comes back to having half empty stomach, not loading up your stomach, helps you to regulate the inflammation in the body, the amount of weight you carry, and it's like a domino effect, Ramana garu.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to ask you, yeah, go ahead. Say, complete your sentence, yeah, please.
So in Ayurveda, that's what it is, right? You got to be more active, you got to eat less, and you got to eat few times, not too many times.
Yeah, that is Upavas in India. And I still do intermittent fasting quite a bit. And my mother used to do every Saturday. She used to do complete, not doing fasting until sunset to sunrise. Another thing I wanted to ask you, American healthcare system is a paradox. For example, it's not that difficult to get these basic foods. It's not expensive, it's not inaccessible. But the lifestyle, the changes, American healthcare system will spend more money at the end. And then, that is one area we really failed. American healthcare system failed. One thing, you jumped from academics to value-based system. So tell us that experience. Now it makes sense to me why value-based system makes a lot more sense in present days. Tell us that your transformation from the academic side to the value-based system.
That's a great question. I think that journey was also amazing learning opportunity for me. Coming from academics, seeing the hardcore part of the disease and the very high-tech, sophisticated forms of treatment, I accidentally stumbled into the value-based care system. Worked for the largest corporation called Chemed, and it gave me a fantastic platform in terms of, I didn't know what value-based care was. Value-based care is essentially like, if you see the overall spending of United States healthcare budget, it is 3 times the Russian budget, $14 trillion. And we are 36th healthiest country in the world, not the first. So that doesn't connect somewhere. It's a third grader can also tell, like, hey, we have the highest budget for healthcare and not the best health outcomes in the world. So in value-based, what we want to do is like, how can we improve the quality of life? How can we increase the longevity of life? How can we help the patients, the Medicare patients especially? Can they afford the medication? Should I afford the medication or should I buy the food? So they were stuck between that. So it is a doctor-patient relationship is one. And second thing is prevention is better than the cure. So what I did at LSU was more of curing. But in value-based care, it was more like early detection. Let's try to diagnose before the symptoms manifest completely, right? When the psychology here is like, okay, any little chest pain, cough, cold, I'll run to the ER rather than talking to the doctor. So the doctor has to be available to his patient. In value-based care, I think there are many branches coming out in terms of that service. So the doctor must be available to the patient. That's my style of practice, which I learned from my prior value-based care experience of 10 years. Being a CMO also over there, running the largest cardiovascular division with 40 cardiologists and 70 echo techs, I was able to look at 30,000 view, come down, fix it, go back to 30,000 view. That privilege helped me understand, like, hey, what is that we can do to prevent patient going to hospitals are already burdened out, bank is broke. So the more good relationship a patient and a doctor have, and I work as a coach essentially to the patient, like, hey, have you done this? Why don't we do this? So you empower, you empathize with them, you empower, give them small goals. Like, you can't solve all the problems in day one. So let's say in value-based care, patient comes and asks me, doctor, I have 6 problems I listed. I'll say, let's talk the top 2. We will address the other in the next visit. So I kind of make them accountable, empower them, and also give them smart, small, simple goals. Let's go after this target 1, target 2. We'll come back to that later. Because everything is a domino effect, right? If I have to control blood pressure, giving them 3 or 4 medications is not the right way, right? Change your diet,
Yeah,
change your lifestyle. Back to you.
I was visiting actually one time. I was on a trip to Miami. At the time, Dr. Castanet is a neurologist, and he was doing some kind of a HMO thing he was trying to do. At the time, I saw first time Chemed, that the van, and then the beginning days of the Chemed. That you explained to me value-based care. I was so impressed. This is 1990s. I mean, this is. I was so impressed. I asked him that should be the way. In fact, the value-based care system should evolve. And we took a long time, still is not evolved yet. We're still struggling and fighting about that system. It is an automatic, it's a problematic process. We have to solve this problem. We need a really prevention is rewarding the doctors with the prevention. Actually, more being healthy, you should be rewarded. Not being more sick, volume based. It should not be volume based. It's a value-based system, as you said it right. So you gave a lot of experience that value-based system from a 30,000 foot. You said that what you say that gives you such a in-depth experience of that American healthcare system that no other individual cardiologist may not say, individual physician may not able to see it, but he saw with the overall all the big cities, particularly they're dealing with a value-based care system, Chemed, dealing with a lot of Medicaid patients, a lot of poverty-stricken patients. They were dealing with a lot of immigrant population. They were dealing very good, and they're treating them extremely well. So tell us that experience, how that experience helped you to understand the American healthcare system much more efficient way. There is a better ways to do it.
Absolutely. There are absolutely better ways to do it. It's not rocket science. We are in the age of AI technology. I'll give you a simple scenario what I did when I was in New Orleans with the Chemed company. Uh, we said when I was the market chief medical officer over there, like, hey, let's see how many patients are going to the hospital. What can we do to prevent? Because again, going to hospital increases your mortality and morbidity because a lot of medical errors happen, and a lot of people who go to the hospital when they come out, they're debilitated, and it's a spiral. So we employed a few strategies in terms of, okay, stage one is if the patient is able to get medications. Stage two is, are they taking them? Stage three is, even if they're taking them, if they're failing, somebody used to do a home visit and see, does he have a lot of processed food in the fridge, which he's eating and also taking medications? And no, it's like, it's not the smart way to do it. Then we used to say, okay, let's improve the drug treatment process. If all the steps fail, then the patient used to go to the hospital. So let's say we looked at in 6 months, 500 critical patients, only 10 ended up in the hospital. So if everybody in this country kind of approached that value-based care, saying that prevention is better than cure, rather than telling that, hey, go to the ER, right? That's the attitude in across the country, where the system is buckling. So we were able to show our outcomes better than any local hospital, better than CMS data, just in New Orleans. And that, when I became the chief medical officer for the entire cardiovascular division, I said, let's extrapolate that. So there's simple tools. If patient can check blood pressure at home and tell the doctor, that's what I do it in my practice, like, hey, can you give me a weekly snapshot of what's your blood pressure like, right? Do you have leg swelling? Every person is different. Every symptom manifestation is different. So I used to hold patients accountable, like, hey, I told you this last time. Did you bring that information for me? Because otherwise, patient comes there, doctor sees in 2 minutes and is out. No, you have to really assess the patient in a right way. And more frequently you see the patient, you can catch the disease early and treat it in the right way. Because once the ship is sinking like a Titanic, it's hard to save.
What is the role of a patient compliancy? Is it one of the non-compliant patients, or how did you manage that compliancy aspect of the patients? Because if my daughter says to me, I have two mixed race children, and both of them are African American and Indian. So one of the things is, I felt that when your relatives, like a daughter or son, tells me, hey, dad, you take that medication or not, that we listen to them. They're sometimes more effective than a doctor. So how did you manage this compliance issue with these patients in your
Beautiful question, Ravana. So there is some study out there which says when a patient comes to the doctor, they're intimidated, they have white coat hypertension, and whatever doctor tells in that little time they have, because they're in rush to see patients, the patient remembers 30%. And you add dementia in there, they essentially don't remember anything. So patients go back confused, saying that, okay, doctor said this, should I take this pill or that pill? So if there are multiple pills, it messes up. So what I used to do is, like, bring your pill boxes with every visit. That is something, it's on patients, right? If you walk to a doctor's office without your pill boxes in your hand, that is not a good relationship. You are as accountable as the doctor. You got to come with the pill boxes. What are you taking? What is expired? which other doctor gave you other pill, because multiple doctor, too many hands in the pot. So that's one. Second is family should be there, like the daughter or son, as you just mentioned. Most of the time, kids remember a lot. Say, hey, dad, hey, mom, the doc
Yeah.
told this. So we used to give a chart saying that you take this pill this pill this way, and also give them pill boxes so that if they forget, somebody fills the pill boxes and you make sure you take those things. So making the patient accountable, bringing the family into the fold for patients who have family members around really gave me success in terms of outcomes.
Beautiful. That is one thing I think patient compliancy, value based care system prevention, that model has to be. Now you took that really into your personal life, and then you started your own practice. You started practice now, direct specialty care. Little bit that experience. Tell us jumping into the your own specialty, your own practice.
That's yeah, that's it's my current phase of life. So after I moved to Virginia, Ramana, it's like I was trying to figure out, like, I needed more spark, and I need more. I have knowledge in the head coming from academics and a corporate world, value-based care world. I had this burning desire in me, like, how can I help broader population in multiple states or even across state lines or countries where we don't have this red tapeism or bureaucracy, because it is simple stuff. There are only few medications, there are only few diseases. In cardiovascular disease, number one, it's very easy. It's not rocket science to fix this problem in the broken healthcare system. If you see, the top 5 to 10% of population cost 80% of the expense of healthcare. So if I can help my 80% of the patients be healthy, and I focus more my energy in the sicker population, it's going to be easy win. So coming from both the worlds, I wanted to present it here to the Virginia community in terms of how can I give value-based care in a simplest way, in a patient affordable way, and also have great outcomes. Uh, Instead of making them run around to different clinics. And artificial intelligence is a big thing, and that's my current, what should I say, cup of tea. How can I bring AI technology to simplify, whether it's a remote monitoring of my patients for chronic care management, or if somebody comes in with chest pain, getting access to cardiologists is very difficult, apparently, in Virginia. So patients somehow find me and come, and I bring them in, do what's need to be done, and I reassure them, saying that based on your risk factors, this is where you are, this is what you got to change, nothing to worry. So I prevent them from going to ERs and hospitals unnecessarily. A lot of testing is also unnecessary unless patient is not compliant. So I kind of empower, educate, and I'm available to my patients most of the time. So bringing best for the both worlds in Virginia community, where you don't get access, you got to wait 2 to 3 months to see a cardiologist here.
You have several state licenses, right? Not only you have 5 states or 10 states almost. You have licenses in the so you can see patients from across the country, a lot of states, right?
Yes, so I have license in 6 states, and based on my bandwidth and the demand, I'll stretch my wings and probably get additional help under my wings. That's for future plans in terms of how can I do telehealth for NRI families or across the state lines, because I do have some patients who are still in Louisiana, some in Florida, some in different places. And if they want second opinion, so I want to be able to give what I have, what I gained in the past 25, 30 years, in the best of interest of the patient and the society, and also teach the young doctors, Ramana, in terms of there's a better way to do it. You don't have to be burnt out. You can have a quality of life. You can have personal satisfaction, professional satisfaction, both, taking care of patients.
Dr. Jaligam, let us talk about mental health connection to the heart disease. It is, if you see that, if you see along, that Americans are very stressed out. Americans in general, when you compare to India and other countries, this is the most stressful country in the world. I think I feel that. Is there any relationship between this mental health and then with the heart disease?
Oh, that's a very good question. Yes, absolutely. Depression really drives heart failure up. Depression will cause a lot of problems. So loneliness. So this is one of the factor in blue zones. Blue zones, the 5 blue zones in the world, where socialization is important, along with your food and exercise. So the more you interact with people, the longer you will live. So if you're depressed, or even if you have any deficiencies of vitamins too, I mean, that's one of my pet peeve, that causes depression, that leads to heart disease as well. So stress, again, not college kids or young kids, but in general, loneliness, depression, stress, any catastrophic event in the family, loss of a job, loss of a spouse, loss of a kid,
Yeah.
can absolutely take you down that spiral. So I always evaluate for any suspicion is high. I always ask for depression in pretty much most of my patients.
So, well, you are from India. You know about yoga and meditation. You're a long practitioner of yoga and meditation. Tell us, how does it help people who don't know Western? Some of the Westerners know about yoga and meditation, but tell us a little bit about that influence of that one coming down this, dealing with the stress situation, stressors.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question to fabric essentially this whole podcast, Ramana. It's like um in terms of bringing yoga into the picture. Like, let's say if I tell a patient, hey, go do cardio. So just going running on the gym, yeah, you're exercising few muscles. If the patient has anxiety, if the patient has atrial fibrillation, if the patient has any other underlying heart disease, it's a different scenario. In yoga, works on sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And my dad is a very avid yoga user, so I kind of challenge him, question him in terms of how it helps the heart. So I think that's where I'm privileged, Ramana, in terms of bringing Eastern and Western medicine together in my heart failure background. Patient with atrial fibrillation, patient with tachycardia, or various scenarios. So yoga helps head to toe every system in the body. It's your nervous system, it's your cardiovascular system, it's your pulmonary system, it's your gastrointestinal tract system, and your musculoskeletal system. So that's why I'm a big proponent of yoga. If you do a solid 30 minutes to 1 hour yoga, you don't need to go to any gym. You will have an excellent physique, your metabolic rate will be very high, and your cardiovascular fitness also gets better. Your cholesterol and triglycerides go down, and your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system come into balance, because a lot of people have autonomic dysfunction and they pass out. And so deep breathing techniques like pranayama, I mean, I'm privileged to know about that, and I teach patients how to use that. And also doing simple yoga, deep Indian squat, which is an anti-aging thing, uh, how to avert a syncope, all those things. I'm kind of tying it up into a nice fabric. It's not a difficult thing. Once the patient understands how to do it, they tell their family and friends. So I want to propagate it that way, in terms of more to come probably in our next podcast, in terms of how yoga helps in cardiovascular scenarios, and also in diabetes. Back to you.
You're a true polymath. Polymath is a physician who has a polymath is a person, polymath physician. You are is like a background and all of that's very important nowadays for innovation. You embrace with AI, artificial intelligence. Same time, you embrace the 1,000-year-old traditions of yoga and meditation. You combine them together. It is a beautiful. Actually, that's what the really what works in overall. That is a polymath. Polymath has an understanding of the overall all the subjects. You are blessed with that, and we are all, your patients are blessed with that. So that is a true gift for them, so honestly, understanding other, that's what I reason I do this podcast, is introducing different concepts in physics and mathematics, is that they play a role in the artificial intelligence. They play a role in the people, they think that is a medicine is a silo structure. Nothing is silo. They're all in the holistic way. All subjects are connected. There's everything is related. That's a universe is related. That's my physics concept. So you are a polymath physician. You do that wonderfully. In fact, that's a gift to your patients. In fact, that is a very important lesson to a lot of people understanding the broader concepts.
Yeah, I think I'm, again, as I said, I'm privileged. I'm lucky to have a background coming from the Eastern and Western world and able to practice here in bring that platform to a lot of patients of various ethnicities and tailor it according to their risk factors, their background. In like the simple scenario I'll say is like for Apple Watch. A lot of people, my patients text me all the time. Hey doc, this is my heart rate. This is my blood pressure graph. This is my cholesterol. What should I do? So I think AI has the future, absolute future. I'm a big believer, and it's going to unmask a lot of redundancies in terms of one size fits all. You give everyone same medication for blood pressure, same cholesterol pill, rather than changing the lifestyle and fixing it. So I think I enjoy the sandbox, Ramana. I really enjoy my patients. I have fun. It's been a fantastic ride, and they excite me. They ask me tough questions. Some of them ask me tough questions, and it keeps me as a lifelong student. I can to learn and also give this platform to younger generation. Like, hey, this is where the beauty of the art of medicine is in terms of practice. So there's no God complex here, but human to human touch.
Beautiful. Thank you. It is truly an honor, sir, to have you on the podcast. It is a privilege and honor for me. Thank you. You are truly academician. We need and then practitioner of really everything. That's what patients need. We need a doctor, a teacher. A doctor should be a teacher, a guru, a philosopher, and it's a life coach. It's all of them, and combine them together. You guide us the life. That is a very important. That you understood more than just treating a physical symptom. And thank you, honor to have you, sir. I'm going to switch to I hope the PV listeners. We're going to switch to my native language a little bit. If you don't mind, this is a special privilege. I want to talk with him. So some of the audience from India are watching it. So I'm going to talk in my language called Telugu. Telugu is called Italian in the East. Marco Polo said that Italian in the East, he called it Telugu. So we're going to talk a little bit about Telugu language. But thank you all for joining us. This is a wonderful session, educational for everybody. And it's also an experience. Other doctors understand the different aspects of other doctors. This is our podcast is based on that. Thank you for joining with us. And then I'm going to switch to my language now. Namaskaram, sir. చెప్పండి సార్.
నమస్కారం అండి.
మీరు ఇప్పుడు చెప్పారు కదా, మీరు చెప్పండి. ఇది మన ఆంధ్రాలో, ఇప్పుడు ఆంధ్రాలో తెలుగు వాళ్ళు వస్తున్నారు. అందరూ ఇండియా నుంచి ప్రోగ్రామర్లు ఎక్కువ వచ్చేసారు. అమెరికా, నేను సిలికాన్ వ్యాలీలో ఉంటాను. అందరూ చాలా మంది 80% మన తెలుగు వాళ్ళందరూ ఇక్కడే ఉంటారు. వాళ్ళ పేరెంట్స్ని పట్టుకొస్తారు ఇక్కడికి. వాళ్ళందరికీ కార్డియోవాస్కులర్ డిసీజ్, నీ ప్రాబ్లం, అది ప్రాబ్లం, ఇది అన్ని చాలా ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ వస్తాయి వాళ్ళకి. మీరు ఏం చెప్తారు? మీకు ఎలాగా, హౌ డు యు డీల్, మీరు ఎలా చేస్తారు వాళ్ళతో? ఏం చెప్తారు మీరు?
This is a fantastic question. Actually, I'm going through that right now because I have few young couples who come and the families accompany along.
If you don't mind to switch to Telugu, it would be very
yes. Thank you for reminding. So కొంతమంది యంగ్ కపుల్స్ వచ్చారు ఇక్కడ, ఐటీ వాళ్ళు. సో వాళ్ళతో పాటు వాళ్ళ అమ్మా నాన్న వచ్చారు. సో ఎనీ టైమ్ ఐ సీ తెలుగు స్పీకింగ్ అన్నప్పుడు ఆటోమేటిక్గా ఇట్ బ్రింగ్స్ ద ఫైర్ వర్క్స్ ఇన్ మీ. లైక్ ఐ కెన్ స్పీక్ రాయలసీమ మాట్లాడగలను, ఆంధ్ర మాట్లాడగలను, తెలంగాణ
మాట్లాడతారు.
అండ్ అగే చాలా డైలెక్ట్స్ కూడా ఉన్నాయి కదా. సో ఒకే లెవెల్లో సింక్ లో ఉండి అర్థం అయ్యే లెవెల్లో వాళ్ళకి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేస్తాను అన్నమాట. సో
అది ఇంపార్టెంట్ అండి. ఎందుకంటే పేషెంట్స్కి వాళ్ళు వాళ్ళు పెద్దవాళ్ళు ఉన్నారు, వాళ్ళకి ఇంగ్లీష్ రాకపోవచ్చు, వాళ్ళు తెలుగులో మాట్లాడాలని చూస్తుంటారు మీతో. పెద్ద వాళ్ళ ఫాదర్ ఇన్ లా, మదర్ ఇన్ లా, ఫాదర్ అండ్ మదర్, దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్, వాళ్ళందరికీ తెలుగు ఇంగ్లీష్ అంత బాగా రాకపోవచ్చు. చాలా మంది పల్లెటూళ్ళ నుంచి వస్తారు ఇక్కడ, వాళ్ళ ప్రోగ్రామర్స్, వాళ్ళ పేరెంట్స్ అంతా, వాళ్ళందరికీ అంత రాదు ఇంగ్లీషు. అలాగే అలా కమ్యూనికేషన్, మీరు చెప్పింది ఫస్ట్ లో చెప్పారే, కమ్యూనికేషన్ ఎంత ఇంపార్టెంటో అది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్. సో వాళ్ళకి మీకు ట్రస్ట్ ఇస్తున్నారు కమ్యూనికేషన్, అది చాలా మంచిది. సో మీరు చెప్పండి, ఆ కమ్యూనికేషన్ అది దాంట్లో కమ్యూనికేషన్ అంటే ఎంత ఇంపార్టెంటో అది చెప్పడంతో, వాళ్ళ స్టోరీలు విన్నాం, వాళ్ళ కథలు విన్నాం, వాళ్ళు ఎక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చారు విన్నాం, అదంతా చాలా ఇంపార్టెంటే కదా అండి. వాళ్ళకి ఫీల్ కంఫర్టబుల్ కదా వాళ్ళు.
100%. అంటే ఈ డాక్టర్ తెలుగు వచ్చామంటే మామూలుగా వెల్కమ్ తెలుగు, వాళ్ళు క్లినిక్లోకి రాగానే వెల్కమ్ చేసినప్పుడు తెలుగులో మాట్లాడతాను, అడుగుతాను ఏ ఊరు మీద ఎక్కడ అనేసి. అండ్ ఏదన్నా కామన్గా ఉంటే ఆ ఫుడ్ గురించి మాట్లాడతాను, అక్కడ ఫుడ్, ఆ ఫ్రూట్స్, వాతావరణం. సో it is a beautiful dance, I call it a chemistry. మాట్లాడేప్పుడు అండ్ వాళ్ళు నా భాషను అబ్జర్వ్ చేస్తారు, నేను భాషను అబ్జర్వ్ చేస్తాను, అండ్ వాళ్ళకి నచ్చే లెవెల్లో చెప్తాను. బట్ చాలా మంది ఏమంటే వచ్చేప్పుడు మెడికల్ రికార్డ్స్ ఉండవు, పోనీ స్టెంట్ ఎక్కడ పెట్టారంటే తెలియదు. సో దెర్ ఈస్ అంటే సో ఆ విషయంలో అక్కడ కొంచెం తడబడతారు. బట్ అదర్ దెన్ దట్ జనరల్ గా ఫుడ్ గురించి మాట్లాడతాను. ఎందుకంటే ఒక్కొక్క ఏరియాలో, రాయలసీమలో ఫుడ్ వేరు, ఆంధ్రాలో ఫుడ్ వేరు, తెలంగాణ ఫుడ్. ఓల్డర్ జనరేషన్ తో నేను ఎక్కువ ఏం అడుగుతానంటే, మీ కాలంలో ఏం తినేవాళ్ళు, మీకు ఎలా ఉండేది ఆరోగ్య రీతిన, అప్పుడు ఆ టైంలో డయాబెటీస్ ఎంత ఉండేది, హార్ట్ అంటే చెప్పేవాళ్ళు. మా ఫ్యామిలీలో ఇదా ఉండేది, ఇది తినేవాళ్ళం, ఎక్కువ నడిచేవాళ్ళం. సో ఇట్ ఆల్ యాడ్స్ అప్ అండి. వాళ్ళు ఎక్కువ యాక్టివ్గా ఉండేవాళ్ళు, తక్కువ ప్రాసెస్ ఫుడ్ తినేవాళ్ళు. దే యూజ్డ్ అంత న్యాచురల్ ఫుడ్, రాగి జావ కానీ, అంబలి కానీ, రకరకాల జొన్న రొట్టెలు కానీ. సో అవన్నీ న్యాచురల్ ఫుడ్, ప్రాసెస్ ఫుడ్ కాదు అదంతా. అప్పుడు పిజ్జాలు గీజ్జాలు ఏం లేవు అక్కడ. ఫ్రూట్స్, అన్ని రకాల ఫ్రూట్స్ తినేవాళ్ళు. సో ఇట్ ఈస్, ఐ థింక్ ఈ ఇంటరాక్షన్స్ ఏమంటే ఇట్స్ అన్ ఆపర్చునిటీ. అవన్నీ మనం పాత సాంప్రదాయాలు, అందులో ఆయుర్వేద కలుస్తుంది, యోగా కలుస్తుంది. సో అవన్నీ మెల్లిగా లాక్కొచ్చి దీన్ని ఒక ఈజీ ప్లాట్ఫామ్ గా చేసి, అండ్ ఎలా చెప్తానంటే వాళ్ళకి, మీరు ఇప్పుడు చూసారు, నన్ను మాట్లాడారు, మీరు సపోజ్ కెనడా వెళ్ళారు, ఇండియా వెళ్ళారు, వీడియో కాల్ చేస్తూ నాతో మాట్లాడి క్వశ్చన్, సెకండ్ ఒపీనియన్ చేసుకుంటారా, రెడీ. అలా కూడా హెల్ప్ చేయొచ్చు నేను. ఎందుకంటే మెడిసిన్స్ సేమే అక్కడ ఇక్కడ, రైట్?
It is. I'm going to ask you when I switched back to English, and I ask you your opinion about our podcast. What do you think of this podcast? This is I'm doing a podcast for more than a year now, almost a year. So you have some impression about my podcast?
Yeah, me podcast, Andy. This is actually a great opportunity. I learn a lot from your podcast. You are a physicist by background, so your way of thinking in the younger generation, I think they need to have more visibility for the podcast. And I think my suggestion, Andy, let's say it's in English or Telugu, if we have some kind of a subtitles at the bottom, anyone watching can understand, at least to some extent, if you have a subtitles at the bottom. We need to come up with that AI thing.
Yeah, I think. Thank you, sir. It is it's a truly an honor and a privilege. Again, one more time, ధన్యవాదాలు మీకు. మీలాంటి వాళ్ళు దొరకడం చాలా దొరుకుతుంది, వెరీ రేర్. మీరు వన్ ఆఫ్ ది రేర్ బ్రీడ్స్ అన్నమాట. మీకు ఇలాంటి వాళ్ళు దొరకడం చాలా అదృష్టం నాకు. నమస్కారం సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ ఫర్ జాయినింగ్ విత్ us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night to all of you. Good night.
Telling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating Unsung Heroes of the Past, who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it